Fine. So yesterday we gave a shtickle, intro to Shmona Prokim. Now, Shmona Prokim. Before we start Shmona Prokim, now we should start. So just we don't have a lot of time. We said we're going to try to keep this to 15, 20 minutes. I think I said 15 minutes, but I just gave myself another 5 minutes. Just one more word on the translation. So as we said yesterday, the Rambam wrote all his works in Arabic, almost all his works in Arabic. And what makes Persham Shnais so exciting from the Talmud, from someone who's learning, is that we have the actual Ksaviyat of the Rambam himself. It survived. It was in Aleppo. The Rambam's Einiglich, a few generations down, moved to Aleppo, and that's where everyone knew that you could read the original manuscript over there. The Beis Yosef and the Tshuva of Kisroichel refers to this Ksaviyat, and he knew about it. It seems like people knew about this. Anyway, this at least 5 out of 6. Right? We don't have Taharas, but the rest of Shisha the Mishnah we have, including Pirkei. So the thing is like this: in your regular Mishnayos, you have the Persham Mishnah says was translated by Rabbi Shmuel ben Tim. I think it was translated by Rabbi Shmuel ben Tim. I'm not sure. Maybe not the whole thing. No, not the whole thing. And the problem with the general version of Persham Mishnah, which is be'etzem mamash a sefer she'ein amugah, because I'll say al tishkan b'alecha avla is a sefer she'ein amugah. You're not allowed to have in your house an unedited sefer because it's an avla, right? You're going to see mistakes, and there's it's just like having a apostle sefer Torah. It says something that it's wrong. And the same thing is this Persham Mishnah, because the Rambam long changed his mind, and that's why if you learn Persham Mishnah, something that you come across very often is inconsistencies. You have the Rambam saying one thing in Mishnah Torah and saying something else in Persham Mishnah, and all the Mefarshim ask kashas and steers. And if you look into the Rambam's final draft, you see that the Rambam is chayz. It's something fascinating. I'll try to show it here on the screen, and obviously it might not work. You guys will tell me if it's working. Okay, here. So here, you guys can see this? Yeah, chafazai. So here you see the Ksaviyat of the Rambam himself. This is the actual Ksaviyat, and it's written in Arabic, so you're not going to understand much of it. But look, and you'll see that there's an X. This is in Shvius. So this is a Mishnah is Shvius, not Shavuos, Shvius. And you have the entire page is X'd out, mamash. So you see the Rambam wrote a perish, it's in Pirkei, I think, wrote a perish in the whole Mishnah, X'd the entire thing, and then changed his mind again and erased the X. So this is Givaldic. So this is back and forth. So you can see here there used to be an X throughout the whole page, and then he wrote the bottom. So the bottom he erased, and then you see he scratched off the X from the whole thing, and then on the side he wrote his glosses. And it's not glosses. This is Madura Tinyon until you saw. So this document the Rambam writes in a letter. There's someone who asked him. I think it's Eger that asks him kashas. He says that he only learns Persham Mishnah because he doesn't understand Lashon Kodesh, so he uses Persham Mishnah. And he asked the Rambam, like, there's a whole bunch of inconsistencies. What do I do? What's really your opinion? The Rambam says, come to my house. I have my original copy. This is the one you have to use. And anyway, this is what we have on Zerom, Moed, Nashim, Nezikin, and Kachim. We have, it's a moedic thing. And today you have Rav Kapach, who's the one who originally translated from this manuscript. Pirkei he didn't have at the time, so that's why we're not going to use this. We're going to use a different one. But then there's a whole bunch. There's a Ingeman and Bnei Brak of Korach that I think goes how to use this, and there's a whole bunch of them. You should look out for when you learn Persham Mishnah, and you should learn Persham Mishnah because the Rambam of Persham Mishnah is a beautiful Rambam. Now they're all meaning the Rambam Persham in Mishnah Torah it's like you're reading the law, right? It's very dry. It's like reading Shulchan Aruch. You can't read Shulchan Aruch plain. It's just extremely dry. One thing after the other. There's no emotion. There's no thought. There's no background. It's just dry, very, very dry. Persham Mishnayos, the Rambam is much younger, and he's much more engaging. He'll tell you, like, I'll tell you this once, and always remember, so I don't have to tell you again. And he talks to you. He's mamish talking to you. He refers to things that he said yesterday. He's going to say tomorrow. It's engaging. He tells you, like, he thinks out loud, and that's a murder. There's nothing. I love Persham Mishnah personally. Anyway, so before we get to, so this is just a little background on the Persham Mishnah. What I want. I thought, I don't know if I did this. Where's the chat? I wanted to upload something here. Let me see if this is going to work. Okay. So I just sent something. It's going to take probably a minute. So that's what we're going to learn inside just for today. So before we get to the Shmoyne Prakim, and we're holding by the Akdama of Shmoyne Prakim, the Rambam opens the Akdama to Shmoyne Prakim, referring to what he writes in the Akdama of Shishis of the Mishnah. So the Rambam starts Shishis of the Mishnah with a very long Akdama, very important fundamental Akdama, and there, one of the things that he goes through in that Akdama is the Seder of the Mishnayos. The Rambam tries to make sense of the Seder in which Rebbe wrote Mishnayos, and so there, every Mesechta, he gives a synopsis sort of what this Mesechta is all about, and what is the general context of this Mesechta in whichever Seder it is. Why is it before that and after that? So there, when he talks about Avos, the Rambam starts off the Hakdama to Shemona Prakim. He says, first check out what I wrote there. So we'll do that. And so there he writes like this. The Rambam writes, this is in the Hakdama to Persham Mishnayos. He goes through Nezikin. Now, Stam, interesting Ha'ara. The other version of why the Mishnayos were written in a certain Seder, so the Rambam tries to, comes up with a Seder why every Masechta had to be written in that, in that order. There's an alternative reason, which is that the Masechtas were written and organized in the order of size. This is something that conveniently people attribute to Ruv Magadis, because the older sources, the someone who happened before Ruv Magadis, let's just say that. But anyway, so it's fascinating. So now, the Marshal, we're learning Makkas and Dafayami. So you have a kasha. How could it be that Makkas is before Shavuot? Right? Makkas has what, 3 prakim, and Shavuot has at least 4, right? 4 or 5, I don't remember. So how could it be? But usually, when you have such an inconsistency, you have to go to the earliest versions of the Ksaviyat Mishnayos, and Makkas is really part of Masechta Sanhedrin, Ksaviyat Koifman, which is the oldest manuscript we have today, which holds a very old nusach of Mishnayos, the nusach that's generally in the Yerushalmi, and very similar to the Rambam's nusach of the Mishnayos, is there Sanhedrin and Makkas are one Masechta. And if you look into it, you'll chab that it's really Makkas as part of Masechta Sanhedrin. It's Elohein Hanachnokim, and naturally you have Elohein Agoylen, right, and Elohein Alokim. It's part of Masechta Sanhedrin. The reason why Ketzadei Damanas Zoyman, and that's the Bavli's kasha right in the beginning, it's because Elohein Hanachnokim ends off with Din and Edim Zoyman, whatever. That's for the Daf people. But in general, that's the rule of thumb. The rule is that the bigger Masechtas, and then it just gets smaller. There are 3 or 4 Yotzem and Aklal, and they could all be explained quite easily. How did we get at this? So the Akdam of the Rambam in Persham Mishnayos, let's just see how he sees Mesechtes Avos, the function of Mesechtes Avos. So there, he says, he brings up 2 points that he does not bring up in Shemona Prakim. And that's why I think it's important, because it gives you another angle. So in the Akdam of the Persham Mishnayos, the Rambam says as follows. The place of Mesechtes Avos in the context of Nezikin is, one is Mitzad, the Shoiftim, the Dayanim, right? The Sanhedrin. You finish Masechta Sanhedrin, you have Sanhedrin and Makkas, and then you have a couple of other Masechtas, and then you have Avos. So he says that the reason why it's important that Avos is in Seder Nezikin is that for two reasons. First of all, that a person that goes to the Torah and a person that goes to ask a shaila and a person that is learning from the Sanhedrin, he has to trust them. And he has to know that the Sanhedrin have a Messiah that can be traced back to Moshe Rabbeinu. And Meseches Avos, besides for all the, the content of Meseches Avos, besides for all the Musar that you see in Meseches Avos and the Gevaldig advice and everything that's there, you have the general structure of Moshe Rabbeinu Sinai, and it goes till we get to Shimon HaTzadik, and from Shimon HaTzadik to the Zugis, to their Talmidim, to Ashmai Vavtalian, and Shammai, Rabbi Gamliel, and his Talmidim, and Rebbe. So if you just go with the Mahalach of, if you just focus on that point, then you have that the Rav that you're sitting, that just, the reason why we paskin the way we paskin, and the authority of the Rabbanim in general, of the Sanhedrin in general, and the Rav that just said something you don't like, per se, you have to understand that he's not saying his own things. His tradition goes back to Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe, Yeshua, Zekanim, Nevi'im, and that's why Meseches Avos is so important in the Zikin. So that's Mitzad Mekabel. Now Mitzad the Mitzad Shoifet, so the Rambam says a Moreh, I think. So he says Mitzad the Shoifet, he says like this: if you're a regular guy in the street and you're immoral, and you cheat and you lie and you're impatient and whatever it is, so the worst case scenario, you're just not a nice guy. That's the stakes. But if you're in the Sanhedrin and you're a Shoifet and you're a Dayan and you're a Rav and you're someone people look up to, and you're impatient and you cheat and you lie, then the entire system is going to crumble down, because and it's sort of the second half. It's the second logical half of the first. If me as a subject, right? If me as a Yid have to look up to you as a Rav and as a Sanhedrin, as a Dayan, as someone who is mamish in line of tradition to Moshe Rabbeinu, and the Torah is sort of resting on your shoulders, because it's every day. It's Yiftach b'Torah Kishmu b'Torah, and I have to understand that the Bezdin that I go to is the same institution and the same establishment as the court of Moshe Rabbeinu. So you, as the judge, you have to understand that if you're not going to be Misunim Badin, and if you're not going to understand that and you're not going to understand that another million things that say in Pirkei Avos, because there's a lot of Pirkei Avos talking to Dayanim, and that's sort of what the Rambam is coming to the answer, that we're not necessarily talking to every person. We're talking, a lot of Pirkei Avos is dafke inside the Nezikin, talking to the Sanhedrin, talking to the judges, talking to the people who have this big achrayas, and it's telling them, understand what your responsibility is, and therefore be patient and be careful, and don't say things that you can misunderstand. You have to be, there's a lot of Pirkei Avos that is negeh dafke to people of authority. And the truth is, us, when we're going to learn these Mishnahs, obviously you could apply it, because everyone has authority. You have authority in your home over your kids and your wife, your boss, whatever you are. Everyone is a little rebel, right? So everyone has a place where he has to be Misunim Badin, right? So, and everyone has to have a place where he understands the importance of din and emes shalom and all that. So this is the Rambam in Pereshim Mishnayos. It's not Shemana Program. It's the Rambam in Pereshim, in the Akdoma to Pereshim Mishnayos, giving us the context of Meseches Avos inside the Nezikin. So you have, again, Meseches Avos Mitzad, you as a subject understand that the Dayan, the Yiftach b'Torah Kishmu b'Torah, he is in the tradition of Moshe, Yeshua, Zekanim, Nevi'im, Anshe Knesset Gdolah, Shimon HaTzadik, and so on. And then you have the Shoiftim, Rebbe talking to the Shoiftim and telling them how careful they have to be to respect the office. It's not only to respect the office, it's be'emes to, But in middle of this whole shmuz, the Rambam throws in a line, and he says, how long am I going for, by the way? I have another 4 or 5 minutes, right? So here's where the Rambam in the Akdoma to Pereshim Mishnayos says, so after we finished Sanhedrin and Makkos and all that, he started Avos. There's 2 reasons for this Meseches Avos. You should know the emes of the Messiah and the Kabbalah that we have. She emes. There's not one person that heard, hearsay from another person. This is no one had a dream. This is a rabbim rabbim. You have multiple. You have Klal Yisrael was there by Mount Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu gave over this tradition to everyone was there, and everyone saw the kids. And this is fine. You should respect the Talmud Chacham. You have to hold him in the highest regard. You have to understand that he is in the office. Everyone assumes that if he would see the grower, he would see the Chafetz Chaim or whatever it is, it's shtusim. It's not true, because if you would be in the generation of the growing, you would have your attitude. You would say, if I would be by the Rashban, it's never ending. And you have to understand that a true Talmid Chacham, right? We're not talking about every low life in the street, even not every person that knows that they're learning. We're talking about a true Talmid Chacham. When you see a true Talmid Chacham, you have to respect his office. You have to respect his Messiah. You have to respect what he carries within himself. And the authority which he speaks from is not his own, and that is what the one thing, and that is fine. That is Nakuda number one that we just saw. And this is, so the second kavana is to give the musr, right? The ethics, the values, the morals of all these chachamim, that we should know what the right midas are, what the Yiddish midas are, what the Yiddish value system. This is the value system. This is the midas. This is the moral ladder. This is it. And then he goes on to say the other point. And the people who need to know this more than everyone else are the shoftim, because they reflect the entire Torah. And then he goes on to the Zol Shmuz that I told you already about Avos Mitzvah and Badin and a whole bunch of these other things. And that's that. And this is very important because the Shemona Prakim, one thing the Rambam stays away the entire time from is this very point. He does not, as much as we're going to talk about midas, and we're going to talk about morals, and we're going to talk about how important it is to have the right, the equilibrium, the right balance. And as much as the Rambam is going to talk about it, he never talks about it to the person of authority. And that's a very important point because, for that we'll have to see tomorrow. But so here, just to get this perspective, this is we're still not in the Shemona Prakim. So we have the Rambam and the Akdama to Perashah Mishnayos giving us Meseches Avos. First of all, what is it? So we had one line, what it is. It is Musrei Kol Chacham and Achachamim Aleim Hashalom. This is the Musar of Chazal. That we should know from this Mesech, if you learn Meseches Avos, you're going to know what the Yiddish midas are, what the Yiddish ethics and morals are. And then we had that side point, two side points of what Meseches Avos is in the general context. See you tomorrow again.
Yeah. You gotta go 1.5 now.